Hey kids, it's Dean from Crypto the Wonder Dog. Charity is one of the most important success factors for the evolution of humanity. Today, the lack of trust and transparency with charities is causing fundamental societal issues. Never before has the need for charity been as great, with mounting economic and social disparities amongst an increasing rate of natural disasters. That's where my friends at B Charity come in. B Charity, an international charity exchange, transforming traditional systems and methods of charity by increasing accessibility, efficiency, and transparency. B Charity equals blockchain plus crypto donations. Utilizing cryptocurrency, this platform opens the door to charitable donations from the world's newest asset class and next generation of wealth. bcharity.io. Check it out today. Here's the link to the site, bcharity.io. Pretty simple. As of right now, the private sale ends in about 3 days. You still have time to jump into it. They have their white paper on here, one pager, roadmap, their features. I've been talking with my buddy Matt Ginyard from B Charity here for the last few days. Great guy. Super important that you get involved with this. If your heart is anything into giving back to the community, helping people out. If you're a charity that would like to get involved with this, if somebody on your board has the foresight to be in the blockchain world, I think this is just the thing for you. All right. Okay, today's show we have Eamonn Donlyn. Eamonn is a specialist in building teams, communities, having been head of product development, operations, business development, and also a 2-time Emmy winner as a producer at ESPN. Man, look at this. Our value is going up through the roof. We got an Emmy Award winner on here. Eamonn's a great guy. He's got a passion for sports, and he's been in technology for a while. He found a way to merge those two together. Being up in the Silicon Valley, he's got his fingers on the pulse of what's going on in the blockchain. I had Eamonn on earlier, and here's our conversation. Sit back and relax, enjoy it. Okay, ready to start the show? All right, let's start the show. Holy cow! All right, Eamonn. We've had our share of little technical difficulties, but I think we're back. We're back, man. We're back on the air, live.
That's right. It's technology. Technology. You know.
Feel like Bill O'Reilly. We'll do it live.
This is what's driving the world together forward, right?
Oh man. Well, you know, we've had some little problems here, but I think we're going good. But hey, how you been since our last little conversation?
I'm good. I'm just I'm living life on the blockchain, you know.
All right. Last time we talked, we were talking about how you have a storied past in sports and entertainment, and you had a little stint at ESPN for a while.
Yeah. I went to ESPN straight out of university, and I joined as a production ranks, and spent about 6 years creating content there in the capital of Bristol, Connecticut.
Wow.
And created content, stole a couple of Emmy Awards, and then I got to go overseas to Dublin with the company.
Yeah.
And, it was a good experience to go overseas. I moved from creating content to operations, started working with hardware and software developers as we built a 10-channel facility really quickly over in London because the Premier League rights became available. So I ended up moving over to London. Ended up with, a 75-person team and
wow.
15 direct reports and kind of scaling up a pretty big operation around the Premier League and all the European rights all across the EMEA, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And it was a really great experience and being around sport, and then built a database and a couple other things with some developers. So started to get a little bit more into technology. And then kind of, moved from that stage, went to business development over in Hawaii for CBS and NBC. And that's when I first discovered kind of Bitcoin and had a business partner there. We did a couple of startups and a startup weekend, and he was owning a co-working space, and that was my first introduction to Bitcoin. He was
really
hawking and trying to get Bitcoin ATMs in Honolulu and have Hawaii be like the destination for cryptocurrency. And as you can imagine, back then it was a little tougher sell than it is now with Estonia and some of the other places that have adopted that mantra.
Yeah, you don't think of Hawaii as the hotbed of technology.
No. And so we had good laughs. And of course, I mean, I got to know kind of the decentralized structure a little bit, and I fell in love with blockchain, and he fell in love with cryptocurrency. He's still mining. He's in the middle of the country now. He's mining Ethereum at the moment. But,
oh, wow.
It was funny how we kind of, diverged in the paths we went. He was maybe a little smarter than I was because I didn't get back into it, until about 2 years ago.
Really? Wow. And how successful has he been at the whole mining game?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, we were having a chat a couple weeks ago, and he's like, how do I scale this? You're always the business guy, and I'm always, kind of the blue collar guy. And I mean, he's obviously a very bright guy. And I'm like, listen, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I've got this idea. I've got 20 machines, and I'm scaling this operation. I'm talking to this winery, and they have a ton of space. I'm like, well, is that a scalable option, right? Like, is there enough ventilation? Could all the wineries around the world be connected to mining operations? Is there some, he's like, why don't I think like this? Why do I just think about, the single mine, and I'm like, well, that's just the way of the world, right? Can you scale this? Can you share resources? Can you share machines? Where can you be, executing this? And, so he's trying to, build a little mini empire and
wow.
process. But it's a changing industry very rapidly, and it's not always easy to adjust to, the changes that are happening. So he's trying to figure out how to scale it.
Yeah, it seems like once you figure out how you're going to be mining, the technology starts moving so fast that your machine is kind of obsolete as soon as you got it hooked up. And
well, I mean, that's been the theory forever, right? I mean, regardless of blockchain or anything else. I mean, as soon as you buy a car, as soon as you buy a computer, it's useless by the time you get it home, in some ways.
Is it going to be profitable for, is it ever going to be profitable again like it used to be?
I don't know. I mean, it depends on the future of the protocols, right? I mean, the proof of concepts are probably not done, right? So,
no.
We're in this nascent stage where we're hopefully returning to where the internet should be. And I mean, I'm not going to pretend to be Nostradamus. I like to be the business guy that knows a little bit about tech and not the business guy that pretends he knows everything about tech. And, I think that there's a lot of potential for, some of these other concepts to break through. And then, we might go through this cycle again, or there might be completely different ways of working that are much more efficient, which is looking more likely that, we won't actually have to scale up some technology farms in these ways. There's, one of the ideas I've heard is that, people are finding new sources of energy, right? Instead of
the sun?
Electricity. And so they're using other sources of energy, and then they're selling off that, that electricity, and they've literally taken the cost completely out of mining on the electricity side. So I think that it's not going to just be solving a tech problem, right? There's people are smart enough to solve the energy problem in other capacities, and that's that's a greater good for the whole world, regardless of this industry.
Yeah, we could go back to the Gilligan Island thing, and you could get Professor on the bicycle and start charging that sucker.
That's right. My son's 4 years old. He has this book that, kind of says all the inventions of the world. And I'm kind of, it's crazy right now, the pace that we're in, because it's got everything, in a history, and they're these little figures, and it's amazingly in depth for a book for kids. And, it's about to get filled up with like 10 new pages in a very short period of time.
Wow.
Whereas, the previous couple thousand years were in 10 pages. So it's crazy how fast
it's multiplying as we speak. So, your big love was sports, obviously. You working at ESPN, you got to hang out with the Americans for a little while and enjoying our football, and then you went over to Europe and enjoyed that fake game of football.
Footy. Well, it's the world sport, so be careful there. And in the crypto world, I'm sure not all of the listeners are loyal listeners are sitting in the United States of America. So don't disrespect the world sport. Be careful now.
Yeah, I know.
And of course, those cricket fans out there are probably going to say, "Hang on, like we have the largest audience in the world." So. There's some consternation. Of course, the Americans will love American football. But when I moved to Hawaii, I was doing business development, so I was also working with the Super Bowl, and we had the rights for those things. And so, even though I moved out of sport mainstream, I still got all the sports projects, and I ended up a producer on the local TV show in Hawaii for sports and all this kind of stuff. And the funny thing is I still called it American football for a long time.
American football, yeah.
A lot of flack for that, obviously, but compared to me, so then I went to Manhattan and was vice president of Irish TV and did some negotiation with Comcast and Verizon and kind of the distribution side of the industry, but I was really missing sport. And then this opportunity came along to come out to Silicon Valley and get full into tech. I had built an OTT operation and scaled up a team for Irish TV in Manhattan around content. We had negotiated with Tata Communications, a big CDN, and did an OTT app for Android, iOS, and Roku. And so I'd kind of done a little bit of everything in media, mainstream media, and was kind of really looking to get my teeth into tech. My wife's from Dublin; she'll want to be back in Dublin someday. It's the hotbed for tech in Europe. Only English-speaking country in the EU now that the UK has exited. So, in order to kind of, make my way back there long term, it makes sense to, come out to the hotbed of technology. And it was a sports social media platform, Your Sports, that presented an opportunity. And so I came out here and I'm helping build the business side, but also head of product. And it's an amazing opportunity. A huge data play that's around DNA and content. So I get to use my background of content creation and figure out how influencers and sports fans want to create content. And then also this huge in-depth strategy around data. And, all the big social companies kind of pretended they were social media companies and backed their way into being data companies that sell advertising. We're coming in and saying we're a data company. We're rebuilding a new platform on top of the old platform that's there now, and coming with kind of a stealth model that uses gamification and some other pretty proprietary angles to the social media market. And we're using blockchain smart contracts at the moment for a lot of that processing. We're not going full ICO just yet. We're proving the business a little further before we do that. But it's an opportunity for me to get back in with sport and negotiate with teams and leagues and players and get to know a lot of different people across the sporting industry, but then layer that with technology. So I've been sitting at kind of this apex or intersection of, technology, sport and business for a while in my life. And, this is just kind of the perfect place for me to play. And the DNA side is really deep. I mean, we literally have genes and traits and all of these levels to DNA, your sports DNA. When you share information or you interact with the fan test or athlete test we have, it'll tell you whether you're a bandwagon fan or a workout warrior if you're doing the athlete side. And you can get to know yourself a little bit, get to know other people, compare you. If you're a risk taker because you said I would pass the ball in the last 10 seconds of a basketball game, or I would take the open shot, or I would call a timeout, or whatever, maybe you come back as a risk taker and that same profile matches 2% of your DNA with Michael Jordan because he takes a lot of game-winning shots. I mean, there's a lot of in-depth big data mining and all kinds of stuff we're doing. So, we're redesigning product, in some ways from ground up. So it's a little stealth. We're not putting that out in market yet. We have the beta version that's out there now, but it's kind of exciting, and it's really exciting for us, and we think it's going to be a lot of fun for people when we start bringing it to market.
And this is the yoursports.com, right?
Yeah. For now, like I said, the platform's out there, but the new one's a completely new experience, and we're not releasing dates yet. But we are moving well. I mean, we're using the latest voice technology and chatbots and some other ways, some things that people haven't seen around content. Or it's kind of like a hybrid between Musical.ly, which just sold for about $1 billion, and Ancestry.com kind of on steroids, because instead of just having your beginning and end of your life. It has all of your sports activity in the middle as well, and it's a great legacy platform in the long term. A lot of the social platforms kind of don't address that element. So there's a lot of exciting things about it long term, and building it on top of the blockchain and the gamification system sets us up for an easy ICO if and when we decide we want to go that route. But we don't necessarily have to. So we've got some flexibility in the business. But like I said, I'm a big fan of blockchain, the technology, just as much as I am the cryptocurrencies.
And we've seen a lot of people in the space that are taking blockchain and turning it into a gambling site or things like that. So that seems to be probably where a lot of the sports guys are getting involved with this. But then they can also create their own little community and talk with people if they're not a big bettor. Like I'm not a big bettor. I don't like betting on sports, but I like seeing news about it. I like seeing news about my teams and talking with other people who are talking about my Cowboys. So, and the people
I won't hold it against you. It's interesting. And, you got this kind of cross section of, where I think you're right. Look, there's really just been two verticals so far, in the decentralized space around sport, and it's been gambling, which you could slash that with fantasy, right? Fantasy and gambling are pretty much the same thing. Yeah. And those are the two leading markets along with esports. And we can get into a few of the other verticals that are starting to develop now, but those have been the two primary. There have been like 70 or 72 ICOs so far in sport. But most of those are esports or sports. And even a lot of the esports platforms are gambling on esports platforms. So there's a lot of crossover in that figure as well. But what's interesting is that it's nascent technology. And I think one of the most kind of compelling things, beyond the fact that it's made for gambling and fantasy, it's just a natural, kind of fit. And that's been around for a while, and there's some negative connotation early on in the industry around that being the first thing for sports. But the NBA is right now pushing for legalization because they want to take a cut, right? They want to take a cut and get, try and get some taxation from the government out of it. So, David Stern didn't really want to do this, but Silver is kind of all over this. Adam Silver is all over this. So it's public. I mean, you could Google around and see that the NBA is pushing for legalization in this country. And, obviously having lived over in Dublin and London, I'm familiar with how it works over there when you can just walk into a bookie. So, we'll see. This is a really interesting space because when you take away that edge of needing the offshore, the offshore? Can the offshore come in and be the leader, or is somebody domestically going to pick that up and that already has big fantasy operations like an ESPN or a FanDuel? Who's going to win those battles? And are they rebuilding those operations on top of the blockchain? And we'll get into one of the other ventures I'm involved with in investment in this space in a little bit, but it's really interesting to see kind of the consternation in that space. And then there are a couple other verticals, they're developing now that are quite intriguing as well.
Wow, well, I'm really enjoying this because I do like sports. I like watching my ESPN, watching the Golf Channel in the morning. But to know that we can use this to better the sports world and the betting part of it and getting news maybe faster. Or, just so many different ways that we can use this. So, the
ecosystem. I mean, a lot of people don't realize the entire media ecosystem is still driving through kind of every facet through the sports arena because of the live element and the sporting rights. The entire NFL and all of the money that's coming into these leagues is still primarily, and the Premier League still growing. All of these leagues, it's funneled by the TV rights. And so now Facebook and Amazon and maybe even Netflix have been pressuring to try and gather that, right? Twitter had some rights, signed the deal with the WNBA and did some NFL. Amazon's played with the NFL now. Facebook's doing MLS and has gotten into the foray in a few of the other leagues as well. So, it's all probably not going to slow down the rates yet. And so, but you have this pressure point where people are like, well, we want to fracture the industry. Over the top is the way. But if you want 10 channels for $150, or if you want 300 channels, which you have now, which feels like a waste for $150, people don't realize you're still getting the best deal right now, mostly. If you broke it down by channel, ESPN would be $40 a month by itself, right? And so, it's not completely sustainable the way the model is heading by fracturing the market. But the cool thing about blockchain is that it offers a lot of opportunity with intellectual property to share on a lot of the revenues. So if you're an influencer stealing content from a rights holder and promoting it and getting revenue off of that, then instead of taking down your Instagram posts, the blockchain has the ability to provide a full solution end to end that allows the origination of the content and the end user to meet up with these guys in the middle to push out the content, and everybody gets a cut. I don't know how sustainable that is long term in some capacities, but ultimately the technology will be there. Now, agreeing on protocols or mainstream industry figures or tracking systems and all of those things will be interesting to see how all that plays out. It's always crazy to kind of think, well, you kind of need a centralized way to get this to work for everybody in the industry on this decentralized platform, and you don't want to be thinking that way, right? So, you have to be thinking, how is this completely decentralized? And that there's a lot of platforms attacking this now. And so, whether you're a believer or a hater in Tron, or there's about 8 other little ones out there that are doing IP protocols. There's a lot of different ways that might shake out, but beyond that, beyond just the broadcasting rights, teams and players, and that's the trend that's happening now. I'm helping advise Globotalent, who signed Luis Suarez, a top 10 footballer in the world, and they're looking at the model of investing in teams and athletes, and kind of like the Green Bay Packers. I don't know if you're aware, they're kind of the pseudo public team of the Americas, where it's a public company. It's kind of just on paper. There's not really voting rights, and it's sometimes they've raised money about 4 or 5 times the Packers have through the stocks.
Really?
But each time it's really just a piece of paper to say you're there. But it's technically it's a public company, and they have used it to finance the stadium and renovations and stuff like that in years past. So it's that model, except for a true one and a true decentralized model where you could invest in a team long term. Maybe you can invest in an athlete that's emerging, or one that's transitioning to their kind of retirement mode and still has a brand that has value, and you can share in their future sponsorships or their future earnings if they're still playing, or they're on the rise. An athlete, maybe an Olympic athlete that can't seem to get funding for training, could now maybe do that, similar to the way they probably have done through crowdfunding now. So there's a lot of opportunity with, the way these platforms are going, and Globotalent's doing a great job. Everybody's having to navigate the U.S. market in kind of creative ways. But, this is kind of one of those things where, there's opportunity where in impoverished countries, maybe athletes couldn't get access to, and, ways to kind of bet on yourself as an athlete, and then teams to share with the public. I mean, there's a lot of potential. This is one of the verticals that's starting to rise out. I mean, I don't know much about Token Stars, but I know it's one of the ones that it finished in 2017. So that, it's all happening, and it's interesting to see how this will shake out, over time. Athletes are getting more and more educated about cryptocurrencies, and like all of us, and we'll see who joins.
Well, I think we talked about Richard Sherman. You said that he had, he's a big supporter of cryptocurrency, and you were talking about him last time we talked.
Well, he actually just took some flack because he negotiated his deal directly. So, ironically, I mean, I don't know if he knows the market really well, but he obviously has shown interest and expressed things publicly. So we know he knows something about it, but maybe this is even his way of leading towards that Globotalent model of, look, he negotiated direct with the team. He had to take out this big Players Tribune article to even kind of explain himself. And Russell Okung had done it as well. And he kind of didn't do a very great job of negotiating. And that's what they were saying about Sherman. But look, this is a bright guy, right? If he's a Stanford guy, he's a bright guy. And I just don't think that, maybe he's setting himself up, right? For a different play as well. And, look, these guys, some of them have a lot of money, but the average player in the NFL is a 3-year 3-year career. So,
yeah.
not all of them, the perception versus the reality isn't always true, right? Now, Sherman's made a good amount of money during his career, but not every player has. And some guys are on the rise and they get hurt, and, even superstars don't make it. Terrell Davis, I'm a Broncos fan. He was one of the best players of all time.
Man.
Somehow got in the Hall of Fame, only really playing 5 years.
That was crazy.
It just, injuries get you sometimes. So, he's a broadcaster now. But, Sherman's, hopefully more players get involved. And that's where, I've kind of like to stay at the top of the market if I can, because I don't like to miss things. And, boy, you could read all day long about this stuff and never get to everything. And so, I'm getting involved with SportVest. And it's a sports only venture fund on the blockchain. And, it's going to provide opportunity to kind of get a handle on the whole market and, be strategically investing in just sports projects.
Really?
So,
okay.
There's not even a white paper or website out yet. It'll probably be the next couple of weeks, but, it's been kind of on the hush hush till now. It's starting to build momentum because it's going to get released publicly soon. And,
we're having a premiere here on Crypto the Wonder Dogs. You're bringing us a brand new company that people can look out for if you're a big sports fan.
Yeah, look, it'll get out there soon, but the whole kind of vision behind it is things like this, right? There's a lot of athletes that have some money, but they come to people like me or other people. I'm, I guess, kind of becoming known as the sports blockchain guy, because I keep getting inundated on LinkedIn with a lot of questions and advisory roles and all that kind of stuff. And one of the reasons for this project for me is that an athlete comes to me and says, "Hey, I want to get into crypto, but I don't really have the time, and I don't even think my current financial advisors know it or have the time to really get into it. How can I do this?" And so the venture fund is a great way because it mitigates the risk. We're going to invest in multiple ICOs, so you won't be putting all your eggs in one if you don't have the time to do the research on all of them. And we'll be doing due diligence, and we know teams, and we know how these businesses work. And so the interesting process there kind of gives them an option to kind of tiptoe in without having it be kind of so much of a scary education process. And so it's not just for athletes. Obviously, this is for everyone. It brings liquidity. This will be the future of venture capital, in our opinion, because a venture capitalist would normally be locked in for 7 to 10 to 12 years. Mm-hmm. So this brings liquidity. Now, the beauty of SportVest is it is following SEC regulation because it's based in the U.S. So it's going to be on the up and up from the outset, which is going to be, I'm sure everyone's going to be doing this model. I don't think it's going to be unique for very long, but because it's almost to market, it'll be one of the early entrants in that space. And, staying on the SEC's friendly side might upset some of the blockchain community because there's a lot of anti-regulation, which is fair. We don't necessarily agree with maybe where all that regulation is going to go either. But being based in the United States, what kind of choice do we have, right? And we're not a utility token. There's some other elements to it that obviously will come out when all the paperwork comes out. But the key here is that by going regulatory, then you're opening yourself up. There's a pocket in the VC market that, they've always been able to dominate that kind of transition between seed and Series A, right? That kind of sweet spot where a company's about to hit their ascension point. Mm-hmm. And if you know how to hit that, which, obviously I've been involved in both big corporate but startup feel in Europe with ESPN, and then, a good few startups in the last 5 years. So, I know those trajectories well, and from the business side, and then the other guys in the group really know, due diligence and the financial side and the investment side. So we have a really good kind of algorithm and model to address which companies are potential in that space. Now, that's probably pre-ICO and into ICO, and also from kind of seed to Series A. And that pocket has usually been dominated by VCs. If you're an angel investor, you really can only get in on the early days, early seed, and then you kind of get locked out of that next round going into Series A. And so, this opens up the opportunity for accredited investors and angel investors to hit that sweet spot, maybe joining together with a few or coming into our fund or, those kinds of ways. So we have a few, we have a few parts of the industry that we'll be tackling with that project. And it allows me to kind of see the industry as a whole as well, which is where, the broad thinking and my skill set comes in. And It's just an interesting way to approach the market. And I can't imagine that it won't be kind of a gold rush and a mad rush. The VC money's already heading in this direction. Probably people don't want to hear that. And that's why we're kind of building this model as well, is because we see the opportunity to open up the market to a broader base. And then depending on regulation, you may have to sit on it for a year to be compliant, but that's better than sitting on it for 7 years. So it's a long-term play, which not every company on the blockchain can say and still have the confidence that they can raise and really be an entrant. So there's risk with anything in life, but it's a pretty exciting way to enter the market. We'll see what the regulatory bodies do over time, but following the laws is the focus of that group. So
it's tough. Makes it tough on some people, but you just follow the rules, man.
Look, it's in some ways it's a no-brainer when you can say we're going to be the first of something or one of the first of something. It's worth it to go that route, and
it is.
It'll make some of the mainstream investors more comfortable, people that maybe haven't been playing in the crypto space as much yet. So, look, we're bullish in general on the entire industry, and we don't think there's any way to stop the blockchain train, no matter what MailChimp does. I don't know if you saw that yesterday.
I saw something about MailChimp. What I forget now what it was. What remind me?
Following in the footsteps of Google and Facebook and everyone else that's a self-protectionist and trying to keep all the money to themselves, they have publicly stopped allowing ICO messaging, which is obviously massive because half the newsletters, probably more, are run off of MailChimp in the world. And, a lot of complaints in the industry leading up to this point. So it's, in some ways it's good. It's just, thank you for finally admitting what you've been doing to everyone, because so many people have been complaining that they haven't had their newsletters come through when they've signed up for stuff on ICO websites, and there's been some consternation in the industry. So it's good to see that, they're finally admitting that they're being shisty. And, look, I'm not against the big boys, but when you have that much centralized power, and then they all decide to stop an industry, I mean, it's just so, good. At least they're being transparent.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So it's like they couldn't be feeding the decentralized community more if they wanted to. They're just powering everybody out there that's like, all right, I wasn't going to code this idea I had, but now I am.
Absolutely. I think it's opening the doors for brand new social media. I think it's opening the doors for brand new business. This is great. I mean, get those people. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Google anyway, so get them out of it too. Let's find some other players that want to do this and help other people out, not just themselves.
Yeah, I mean, look, ultimately, the general community wants to go back to where we thought the internet could be, and obviously all of the stuff that's happened with the FCC in the United States. Not to be all U.S. centric on this, on this chat, but I mean, it's been an interesting road for the last couple of years with, the internet, if you will, with this country. And I mean, when you look at the SEC right now, it's not even a fair game, right? I mean, they don't have the resources, manpower, or knowledge in house to go get 10 MIT graduates and build a team to properly understand this industry and then build another 30 deep of experts in the crypto space on the investment and financial side. And they have to make the rules as they evolve, and this industry is moving faster than anything they've ever seen, and they're not known to be fast anyway. So this is not a surprise, right? I mean, there's most of the industry shouldn't be kind of like, oh, I wonder what's I mean, this is obvious. They're at a huge disadvantage. And that's why so many people are afraid of the type of regulation that will ultimately come out. Because people would say to you in the deep community, I'm sure they would just say, well, they're going to get this wrong, and that's possible. Yeah. And that's where there's risk in going with them. If you're trying to go and register as a security and, you're staying away from any utility plays and all those kinds of things, then you're at the mercy of regulation, which is the antithesis of the industry. And people are like, well, you're not really part of this community. Yeah. That's what you're going to do. And that's a fair point. It's a fair point, right? I mean, that's kind of the whole crux of the decentralized models. So, I saw somebody the other day said, don't put decentralized in your white paper, in these 10 ways. And there was nothing on that list that was wrong, right? I mean, he was dead right with everything. And then somebody came back to him and said, well, is your company? And he was like, well, no, but I'm not putting decentralized in my white paper, right? So, it's just one of those things where, bad actors and money grabbers and pumps and dumps, and there's all kinds of things that make this growth process a little more challenging than it could be, but that's all part of an asset market. And same thing with regulation, right? This is all part of a market that's evolving before our eyes. And, this is all kind of to be expected, which is why you just try and follow the letter of the law the best you can and hope you don't go to jail.
Yeah, I know. Well, let's continue this, because I want to bring us back, and let's keep a sports theme going. Keeping the news about the decentralized sports networks and the new ICOs that are coming out that have something to do with sports. Obviously, your sports. We got some news coming up on that. And then the other ventures that you're working with, Global Talent, I think that's something that a lot of stars should get involved with. You guys already have a little soccer star on there, Luis Suarez, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's moving along, and I think that you've got to have some way to kind of give people control, especially with the early projects. You want it to feel like it should be on the blockchain, and I think that's also the problem with the mad gold rush, is that I get offers to be advising on a lot of different things, but I'm trying to stay in my wheelhouse the best I can, right? I've had offers for agro ICOs and, construction ICOs and other things. But the sports area is where I'm most knowledgeable. And I could have 20 different advisories on my, on my profiles, but I mean, how genuine is that, right? How efficient can I be for those companies? And so, and there's some people that are so deep into the market that they can be efficient because they have a massive audience or massive network. And, there's some people that are deserving of doing that. But, there's plenty out there that are hurting the industry by not. The cool thing about sport is that it's intertwined, right? I mean, the advertising industry is going to change, and that's going to be massive for the sporting industry, right? So we've talked about media and mass media, social media, all of these elements are heavily intertwined with sport. So even the projects that don't have the word sport or don't even show up under a sport or an esports search, are going to have an impact in the sporting arena. And that's why the quote unquote niche of sports, which is quite broad, is so exciting. And, you're going to have kind of this evolving kind of ecosystem around it that, is kind of impacting the industry. And it'll be interesting to see which other athletes join. And I mean, there's on Global Talent, there's former NBA guy, Maurice Evans. There's guys that played at Barcelona and basketball overseas as well. So, they're building a pretty strong team, and, that's part of what it takes, is having a nice advisory board, but also ideas are great. Execution is still going to be the key. And I think gone are the days soon of white paper only ICOs. It's just a way to raise money, right? This is not some new world, just having a white paper won't be enough unless you have
anybody can hire a college kid to write a white paper.
Yeah, and execution. But this has been the way forever, right? I mean, ideas were still big when I joined ESPN in the early 2000s. I mean, I got promoted quickly off of ideas, and I did a lot of things around ideas. But pretty rapidly, I moved to operations not as an accident, right? The whole world became about execution, and I had did a little HTML in college and built, dressed up eBay auctions and sold a bunch of collectibles and all this kind of stuff in college, and then built a couple of businesses coding websites. But then I dropped out of my computer science minor like two semesters into C+, and just enough to be able to translate for a developer at this stage or an architect, and stay dangerous. But, in the end, kind of everything moved away from ideas to execution. And now the ideas are bazillions. Everybody has an idea. It's who can execute that idea the best, the fastest, the most efficient, and always being in mind for the end consumer or the end user. And, whoever can do that is who's going to win these battles. And the protocol battle is the most interesting one, because the people that provide the tools for everyone to play, Ethereum's doing a solid job. They've got a foundation. They're offering things for now. And so I'm interested to, kind of see if we can't get sport to be a bit more of a bigger niche in this market over time. and it takes a village to do that. And I'm passionate about it. And, obviously people that like sport or fans of sport, are very, very passionate people. And that's the beauty of the projects I'm involved with. And, I see the future, for the decentralized future of sports to be very bright.
Yes, I think so. And I think you're doing the Lord's work here by keeping that, by keeping these people here and doing these types of projects that we can get some more sports people involved and building a bigger community with the sports world.
Well, and how beautiful is the crypto market in general, right? Like I was talking to somebody yesterday about this. He's like, well, he was giving me advice on China and all these other things, and we were just having a good chat. And it's like, would I have met you without crypto? No, and that's kind of same for you and me, right? I mean, it's like it's bringing people together in a natural way, the way that kind of the internet was intended to, not the kind of forced methods of some of the social platforms and some of the other, this is a very natural way to meet people through business, but through like this positive energy of, like I'm a big fan of B Corps, right? Are you familiar with benefit corporations? Where you register, for the business to be measured for social impact. And so, it's almost like every decentralized project, if a true decentralized project, is a benefit corporation for the world. And so it's kind of like, you're not quite lucky. You can't say, hey, look, I'm not trying to make money here. I mean, a lot of the projects are obviously very, very money driven, but, you are contributing to something that's moving the world forward. And it's not as scary as some of the artificial intelligence and, some of those things that come with, if you read Elon Musk and, those kinds of, projects that are really interesting and exciting as well. But also, maybe don't feel kind of as good for the human race at times as some of the others in the blockchain space. So, I mean, it's fun to feel a part of something new and you're feeling a part of something that's much bigger than you, right? So you're just trying to make your contribution and, and try to figure it out. But I'm no expert. I mean, I can't pretend to be an expert. That's why I just try to be honest and, be myself in this market. And so if I can help someone, I will. If someone shoots me a note and is like, can you help me? Yeah, if it's my area of expertise. If not, maybe I know somebody. But I'm not going to paint myself as a world beater in this space. I haven't been, living and breathing it the way a lot of people have for as long as they have. And they're the ones that are really moving this forward. Yes.
Yeah. Well, this is great, man. I'm glad we got connected because it's going to be a lot of fun and doing a lot more shows like this, especially when we get more people like Richard Sherman involved with this, and we'll have more celebrities to talk about and dish on and see what we can, kind of cool news we can come up with. So
it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and then obviously the betting part of it. I'm not a big bettor, but maybe this will be fun.
Well, we'll try and get some of these, some of these CEOs on, and and then we'll see. Maybe at some point we'll try and get some of these athletes on, and and get people buzzing about it.
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it, man. Let's be the evangelists for the sports and crypto and blockchain.
I'm in. I'm all in.
Right on.
I'm enjoying it. And,
all right. Yes. All right, man. Well, it's been great talking with you. I gotta go take Crypto the Wonder Puppy out for a walk now. She's barking at the back door. So hey, man, let's keep this going. I don't know what your schedule is this coming week, but I'm kind of in and out. You let me know when we can get this going, and let's bring another show back.
All right, perfect. I'm looking forward to you.
Cool.
Have a good weekend.
Right on. You too. All right, Eamonn. Good checking to you, brother.
Cheers.
All right, see ya.
Bye.